Good afternoon. How are you? Well, it's kind of a soggy day today. The temperature, Thomas Jefferson tells me, is 85 degrees. The humidity is 67, so you sort of feel like you're in a steam bath to some extent. And Jefferson tells me that the weather services like to always refer to the speed of the wind as breezy, and it's 2.2 miles today. Day by day, we have an ongoing drama of a man who lies, but there's a weakening in his Svengali charm, if you will. He seems to be enlightening people more than he was of his failures as a leader, as a character, as a person. And it's deniable that he is a person who knows how to make a deal and make it stick, because he always has several stages of his predictions. On the off chance that one doesn't work, you always say, yeah, well, I said this too. So he's on all sides of an issue. But it's no way to lead a negotiation. There's no way to convince Putin and the world that just taking the territory, as Putin did, is sufficient reason to let him keep it. So there's more going on here. Now, Trump said he was for a ceasefire, and that's what was going to come out of this, and maybe he'll walk away if he can't help and so forth. Those mixed signals inform Putin and others that he's weak. In other words, he can't stay the test. He can't stay with the chore. He'd have to work. And he doesn't want to do that. I think that since he doesn't believe he's a fool, I believe what he thinks he's doing is leading us to believe he's sincere about helping Zelensky when he's doing nothing of the sort, knows it, and he's just fine with that. So he embraces Putin's vision, which is barring Zelensky as the president of Ukraine, embracing the invasion by Putin, by rolling out a red carpet for a man who's committed war crimes and is a dictator and doesn't care who he hurts or kills, betrays, poisons, because his view is of the old Soviet. He doesn't accept the transition of Russia to a member state in concert with the other states. No. And that's why he also wants to, in any settlement, bar Zelensky from joining NATO. Now, there was a security agreement in effect in the past, provided that they would have the security for Ukraine if they disarmed their nuclear weapons. They did, and we see what happened. Their security went to zero as Putin comes across, takes Crimea, and moves further into the Ukraine territory and other places in the nation state. So what do we have here? What we have is a transparent person who is prepared to let Putin keep what he took. And so everybody was waiting on the meeting to see if something positive was going to come out of it. But we can't ignore the fact that he pretends to care, but then does none of those things that would show he was at least neutral. Or he was a partisan to stop the killing. He says he cares about the killing, but he dropped like a hot potato, apparently, any discussion about a ceasefire. Now we're going to have a peace. We're not going to have a peace. It's not going to happen. And the thing that strikes me is how the clarity of the discussion that we're dealing with an autocrat, a dictator, a myopic screwball, a very dangerous person, has been underscored, and he didn't plan this, by discussions about how he's handled international diplomacy, which is badly. As you may appreciate, if you don't study it, that when these summits are put together, and forgive me if I mentioned it yesterday, but when these summits are put together, they cobble out those papers and those positions that could be announced as the fruit of the summit, what was achieved, with some surprises, with drama. Now, excluding Zelensky at the outset of the hearing of Putin and Trump by a declaration of war. Now you might say, what would I do if I were in that situation? I'd get in my plane and I'd go back to D.C. I'd say Putin is acting in bad faith. On the day that we're having this meeting, he's attacking the people of Ukraine. That cannot stand. That's what you do. That's diplomatic. That's powerful. Or you might have somebody else say it for you and then say there's an emergency back in D.C. and I have to take care of it. And you don't do everything but bathe his feet and kiss his ass when he does arrive on the day that he took military action against Ukraine. It's not acceptable. It's not possible. So as a result of doing nothing beforehand and hoping he could just do a dance, sort of like a poor act, he was transparent to incompetence, to impotence, to hopelessness, to being a pawn in Putin's game. Now, on some level, he must know that. So why does he put up with it? For the same reasons, I suspect, that Russia was able and chose to endorse Trump in the 2016 election, and why he supported him in other ways since. And he must have something on him. I don't know if it's financial or sexual, private, pictures, who knows? But there's something there, just as there is in the Epstein category, things that Trump does not want to see the light of day. So he did pretend to care in order, in my opinion, to get Epstein off the front pages and the tariffs off the front pages and the martial law that he was evoking in D.C. and L.A. off the pages. And his administration allowed ICE rogues to be present in California outside Governor Newsom's statement about how we should fight back against Trump. So you see it's building. And the comments were stronger in part because diplomacy has some strict practices, all of which have been violated by Trump. And so that's an important element, I think, of the sufferance that now Trump is undergoing. And I'll bet you there's more than one ketchup bottle that's hit a wall in the White House as a result of Trump's inability to take a line of force and follow it through. Being reliable and strong in the case of an effort to mediate is critical. And I've done it, not this kind of mediation. But basically, one practice is you have, say it's two parties. It could be more. You keep the parties separate, and the mediator could be Trump, goes back and forth between them, does that for a while, and tries to narrow agreement to those overlays that are synchronous. And then decide if the elements of an agreement are worth their time going forward. But Zelensky wasn't in the room. The EU wasn't in the room. And now Trump is trying to catch up by being able to say, well, I talked to Zelensky afterwards. I talked to Europe afterwards. But I didn't do a damn thing. Now, what is the next step? White House is authorizing arms for National Guard deployed in D.C. This is like the playbook in a revolution. What's going to happen next? You know, the Boston Massacre. And some might say, oh, that's an exaggeration. Watch out for overreaching with your example. Well, what the hell was January the 6th? You want to find a man who has the capacity to push this further, particularly in the absence, until recently, I'd say the last couple of weeks, of pushback from governors, as well as courts, as well as people, as well as rallies, as well as his own followers. So we can expect Trump trying to create an incident that justifies pushing back. But a word of wise to he who would be dictator. You're asking citizens to turn against citizens. And the history of these dictatorial takeovers have a sad history for he who tries to do that. I admit he's gotten away with a lot. But on Monday, we're going to have hearings on Epstein and Maxwell. And things are going to be said that are undeniable and true. And we're going to fight about why aren't there the survivors at the hearing, because they may not be there. So that's what I got to say today. And tomorrow I'll be out again, weather permitting. So for the evening, have a terrific day from the Cathedral of Trees. Bye-bye.